When people want to get back with their ex, I often also try to assess whether they should get back with their ex. Obviously, it's something that you need to answer yourself, but I always challenge my clients on our first consultation on whether it's the right decision for them, because obviously a breakup is so hard, it's so difficult to see probably the most important person in your life leaving you, having to adapt on this new life, and sometimes we rescue something out of that fear of loss, out of that pain, but it's not necessarily the right decision long term in your life. So let me explain everything after the jingle.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So as I said, not all relationships should be saved, but also there are parts of relationship that cannot be saved. And before I explain you the 5 things you need to assess to know whether you should give up because that's not the right decision for you to get back with that person, you also need to understand there are few criteria that determines whether a relationship is what I would define as life-defining relationship. Relationships that can be saved, relationship where your partner feels there's an interest for me, there's something I can gain getting back in this relationship. I miss what we had, and therefore I will also fight to get you back at some stage. If you don't meet those criteria, it doesn't really make sense to know whether you should get back with them or whether you should start no contact or whether you should send a letter and so on and so forth. This simply means that this relationship cannot be saved. And to be fair, a lot of relationships are like this. A lot of relationships are just relationships that part of the trial and error that we all experience in life. If you're not sure whether you have any chance of getting back with your ex, have a look in the description. There's a link to take the quiz. It's a free resources that I created for my clients for them to really get an idea of their chances. Have a look and make sure to see whether your score is high enough before considering anything, because otherwise you're simply wasting your time. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'd rather having you with the clarity that what you're doing, what you're pursuing is not working, rather than wasting your time trying to pursue something that's not savable. The first thing you need to assess is, first of all, the trust. And trust is very important in a relationship, obviously. So if the breakup is outside of infidelity or dishonesty throughout the relationship, understand how important trust is in all relationships, and whether they need to trust you back, whether you need to trust them back. It's a foundation. It's the first sort of cornerstone of all relationships. It's very important for you to understand that realistically, will you trust that person again? And some people, they don't have this ability to trust. And it's very personal, and it's not. Some people would be able to forgive when their partner cheats on them. Some people won't. I'm not judging whether it's bad or wrong, but just understand your limit. Just understand whether you're trying to save something out of the relationship, but look at the trust. Look at this fundamental thing that needs to be there in all relationships. And so it's very important to assess whether that's possible or not, and be realistic. Be really objective about this. It's very important. That's why also people ask their best friend, ask people around them to understand, like, am I delusional? Will I be able to trust that person again? Second one, very important, very common, is recurring patterns. If you are the victim, or your relationship is the victim of recurring patterns of breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together, something that we will consider in relationship therapy as relationship cycling. This idea of on and off, and that's how you function with your partner. Really check and assess whether, why this time will it be different? It's the third time we break up, the third time we get back together. So why not the fourth time? And really assess, like, okay, what needs to change? Why this time will it be different? Understand what you're trying to save. If that person is hurting you, if you feel betrayed each time, if you feel like you're back to square one but not progressing, really assess whether you're not the only one trying to solve things here. And that's also something very important that you need to assess. And it's very common between those 5 points is you're watching this video, right? You're trying to learn, you're trying to make the right decisions for you, for your relationship. There's also an element of what about your ex? Are they empathetic? Are they also trying to be better, to grow, to understand how to make it work with you? So let me explain. The third one is obviously incompatibility. It's obviously the most common one, but here are the fundamental misalignment, the classic one: values, goals, lifestyle. Things that you don't want to compromise on. And if you are not aligned with those things, that cannot work. Very simple example that I always give. If you want to have kids and your partner doesn't want to have kids, it's not something that you can't meet halfway. There. And regardless of how much you love that person, regardless of the amazing time that you spend together, this cannot work. If you have a deep need and desire to have kids and your partner doesn't, then that's a good reason not to pursue a relationship. Because if you stay in that relationship, you'll be resentful for the rest of your life, not having had kids with that person, or broadly not having kids at all. So understand that really, and sometimes it's very difficult with like, yeah, but if I stay long enough, he might change. How long have you been together? If he's been or she's been consistent, I don't want kids. And they broke up with you because you didn't listen, or you broke up with them because they didn't want to change their opinion. So really assess, because those things are not things that you can negotiate. Right? If it's a deep desire, if it's a real need, could be other types of misalignment. You want to live in the city, they want to live in the countryside. You want to live abroad, they want to stay at home. You want to, buy a house, they want to rent. There's also, really assess the things that you can't negotiate. And if you do feel the need, okay, I can compromise, really make sure that you're not going against your desire, against what really matters to you. You don't want to be in a relationship where you feel you're not yourself, where you feel that it's going against what you want in life. A relationship shouldn't be something that prevents you from being who we are. It should be the other way around. Let me explain. There's also, fourth one is the lack of interest, the lack of effort in reconnecting, in working on these issues. And so if you can't communicate about having kids, for example, if you can't have a proper discussion, that's not the right person for you. Also understand the definitions of commitment, what it means to be in a relationship. Sometimes people assume that the way they see the relationship is the same with their partner. That's always the mistake people make in a relationship. We always assume that our partner speaks the same language, see the life the way we see life. So have that conversation about commitment. What does it mean to be committed? Love is a verb, and therefore it means that we need to work on a relationship. It's something that it's evolving over time. You don't want to be in a relationship with someone who is not willing to do the work. He's not willing to communicate, to face their fears, perhaps their insecurities. You're doing that work, right? You're watching videos, you're learning, you're growing, and that's amazing. And you deserve to be with someone who's doing the same. So sometimes we need to guide them a little bit. But it's very important for you to assess whether that person has the same mindset, has the fifth one, the personal growth in mind. Maybe they took the decision of the breakup, but 50%, usually 50-50, it's a relationship, they also bear 50% of the responsibility. And so right now you're trying to find ways to reconnect. You're trying to find ways to be more secure. You're trying to find ways to communicate more effectively. And if you do the things that I explained in my videos, you'll probably be back with them. But the question is for how long, because there's an element of them. There's an element of growth. And if you're the only one growing, what happens sometimes, and happens to some of my clients, is that you feel like, I actually don't want this relationship anymore. Because I feel I'm doing the work, I'm not getting anything in return, and this time I'm not desperate anymore to get validation or to get a sense of feeling loved, because I know that my actions speak for themselves and I value myself more than what I get from the relationship. And I don't feel respected, or I don't feel valued for who I am, for the work that I put in this relationship. And therefore, that's not a relationship that works for me. And I leave the relationship. So that happens sometimes, very often. And I think it's very common to see that breaking up, getting a divorce, is a way to find or to fulfill personal growth. I strongly believe that personal growth can be done as part of the relationship. So if you're starting this work on your own, that's perfect. You also need to assess whether your partner, whether it's your ex, whether it's your next partner, is also in that mindset. Because life is very long, relationships are very difficult. And if you don't partner up with someone who's willing to do the work, it's not going to work, regardless of how amazing they are on paper. It doesn't matter how amazing people are on paper. What matters is the effort they put in. That's it for today, folks. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video to help me promote this content online. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
For a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.